Bruce, thank you so much, Teju, for joining us in this photography class. And thank you so much for helping our community. So please go ahead.
Well, thank you. So today we want to talk about finding your creative voice through photography. And our point of view is that we want you to hear from two amateur photographers who have day jobs that don't involve photography. And so it's not about the taking the lovely photographs. It's about finding your own voice within that. So first, I'm Bruce Payton. I'll introduce myself a little bit more later. Teju.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deja, and I'll also introduce myself later on as well. Thanks for the honor to speak to you guys.
So I would like to show you some slides. So what I plan to do is I want to talk a little bit about finding your voice, and sort of give you about 10 ideas for things to work on. And then Teju is going to give you some examples from his work and his storytelling that meshes beautifully with the things that I had in mind for this. So first, let me start. I've been going to Vermont for decades and always taking pictures of frogs. And this was one of those shots where I didn't mean to take this shot. I was doing close-ups, but I suddenly saw the light looking fantastic. And when I got all done, I realized, oh, this is one of the first times I ever took a shot where the camera and I were on the same page, and it actually was the photo said what I was trying to say. And so that's what this session is all about, is trying to do that. Okay, for some reason, okay. So a little bit about me. By day, I'm a college professor at Menlo College. I teach things like creativity and collaboration, sustainable business, design thinking. After hours, I'm husband and father, but also an environmental activist on our sustainability commission in Sunnyvale. But I have an early morning and late afternoon addiction. I chase light. I love birds, landscapes, reflections. When I can get out with my camera, I do it. And this is about sort of what do I do? Okay, before we start, let's talk about creativity. This is a quote I love from a really cool book about creativity. It says, everyone is born creative. Everyone is given a box of crayons in kindergarten. Being suddenly hit years later with the creative bug is just a wee voice telling you, I'd like my crayons back, please. And for me, picking up the camera is like that. If I could play guitar, I would. If I could dance, I would. If I could sing, I would. You wouldn't want to hear me. What works for me is trying to capture what I see and share it. So I want to talk about avenues for finding your voice. And when Teju and I were preparing for this, we had very different styles of photography, but very similar views on how photographs happen. So first, a really important part and a hard part is learning to use whatever camera you're using. Doesn't matter whether it's a cell phone. They have fabulous cameras these days, whether it's a point and shoot, whether it's a digital SLR or some kind of a mirrorless camera. These days, the creative process doesn't stop with what the camera does, though. There's a lot of the artistry or the expression that happens on your computer afterwards. And that's really good news, because there's some things that the early greats in photography took hours and hours to do that you and I can do in minutes if we learn to use the tools. So that's my first thought. Really, you learn to use your camera and your computer, and that's more easily said than done. But I often will take myself out and just say, I don't care if there's any good birds to look at today. I'm going to learn how to do this technique today. And more often than not, I get surprised by good photographs just because I'm out there trying to learn my craft. The second thought is really explore. I was telling Teju, I bought my first camera right when I got out of college. That was a few years back now. And I was going to do nature photography, whatever that meant. And along the way, I've taken thousands of pictures. A small percentage of them have been nature photographs. Lots more of them about people, lots more of them have been about events. And I now just try to make sure I always have a camera with me. That's easy because we all carry cell phone cameras. But I just try taking lots of things. And sometimes, I went to just relax and watch the San Jose Jazz Festival, and all of a sudden, some lovely photographs happened in front of me, and my camera just decided to jump in and help me capture them. A second thing is to really imitate. And my dad used to teach writing, and he would always make students imitate good writers. So I've had some fun writing. The one in the upper left corner was just went down to Big Sur and Bixby Bridge. Everybody who goes to Big Sur stops to photograph Bixby Bridge. But I looked at that and I went, can I imitate some of the 20s and 30s photographers? With mixed success. The flower, the calla lily, that was a deliberate attempt to imitate a lovely series by Imogene Coca. Losing her name. A contemporary of Ansel Adams, brilliant woman, the name will come to me, who did these lovely, simple black and whites. And I just set out to see if I could imitate what she did. The more I did it, the more I really loved her artistry and realized how hard it was, particularly with the tools that she had to work with. But I never quite could capture her look, but I found a look that I like for me a lot. And then the final one, the egret, there's a woman that I follow on Instagram who just does lovely egret and great blue heron pictures. And I say to myself all the time, when I grow up, I want to be able to take egret pictures like Gloria Hansen. And so I'm not gaining on her because she keeps getting better and better, but I keep trying to follow what she does. And it's helping me find my voice. Next thing is experiment. These are different views, as was the last picture I showed you. All pictures of the same species of bird. They may even be the same individual bird, but you can see the same thing on different days and interpret it different ways. And I have a lot of great egret pictures that are on the cutting room floor because they weren't any good. But I find that the more I experiment, the more I find different ways that I think about them. I love the bottom one because it's kind of in your face. It's almost scary. Every time I open that picture, I sort of jump back a little bit. And the upper right one is really kind of moody. It looks, lonesome. Which brings to the next piece. Listen to your camera and its moods. During the early days of the lockdown, I started taking my camera out for walks around the neighborhood, just photographing flowers. I don't know anything about photographing flowers. I know a little bit more now than I did when I started. But I kept finding that all my pictures they'd be colorful flowers when I photographed them, but the things that I liked were all these kind of moody sepia tone things. And I kept telling my wife that I think my camera's depressed because all of the photographs come out with this very moody tone to them. And then one day I took the camera out and took photos of some of the same photos, and someone had turned the color back on, and there were some lovely pieces. Still on this idea, I went out. I've done a lot more bird photography than flower photography since then. But one day I was out recently, about 3 weeks ago, I was out photographing, and the birds weren't talking to me. There weren't any good photographs to be had. And I was sort of trudging back to the parking lot, and I saw flowers in the parking lot next to where I parked. And I ended up snapping this. And so sort of a corollary of this other one is pay attention to moods, but let what you see surprise you and guide you. This, my camera was telling me that day, never mind the damn birds, photograph flowers. Get your eye going, get your eye excited. And by the way, after that, I did see several lovely bird shots too, but it took something to get my eye and my camera going that day. Chase good light. This was one of my last photographs of 2020, and 2020 wasn't the loveliest year that any of us had. But that was one of the loveliest things that I saw the whole year. I stayed later than I meant to, so the sun was going down, and I just looked back and I went, oh my God, this is amazing. So early mornings and late afternoons or evenings can do some spectacular things. The light is more exciting. And the parts of my voice that I didn't know were there until I started seeing things that I thought were pretty, but seeing them get lit up by morning or evening light. Okay, Ansel Adams and many other photographers have talked about visualizing the image that you want. This was a late afternoon. I was visiting friends in Vermont and going to a scene I had seen a lot of times. And I thought, geez, this is really lovely. So here's the photo that I took. This is pretty close to what it actually looked like. I didn't do any tweaking of this. But I had something different in my mind, and Teju will talk more about this. You don't take a photograph, you make a photograph. So here's the photograph. Here's what my camera saw, but there's what I saw in my mind. And for me, I hope you like that photo, but I don't really care because that photo makes me feel calm. It makes me feel connected with my friends, and it's my way of saying, hey, here's something beautiful that I saw in the ordinary. And so if you can think about using your camera to show what you want to show, not just what is out there. And I don't care if you're photographing ponds or landscapes or your kids or grandkids, your pets, the flowers in your garden. Think about what it is you're trying to show and what you could do to help someone see what you think is beautiful. I wasn't sure quite how to say this, but it finally came out this way. It said, be kind to the photographer behind your camera. He or she is going to make a lot of mistakes. This particular photo, I have a couple hundred of these, watching snowy egrets do fantastic things, and every one of them looks like I shot through a screen door because the damn fool behind the camera didn't get the settings right. And now I think I know how I could capture a photo like that and make it be something that I could really use. But be kind to yourself, because you're going to make the same kind of mistakes that I did. This would have been a lovely shot to get. There's no way I can fix how grainy it looks. But you learn from the mistakes and have fun with the mistakes. Okay, the next is really, you gotta count the wins. Now, I hope you like this photo, but again, I don't really care because this photo makes me feel a certain way that I love. This was out watching a green heron, and this is by the duck pond in Palo Alto. And I just was loving the color of the water. And I loved the way how the colors on the bird complemented that. And would I enter that in a photography contest? I don't think so. But does it make me feel good on the days when I need something else? Heck yes. And so you gotta take the photographs you like and put them where you can see them. Because there are going to be days when nothing you point your camera at works the way you want. And so you just take delight in that. And then the last thought is, over time, you can ask yourself, well, what do I want from my creative voice? But don't expect quick answers. I took this photo after sunset one night in Palo Alto. The sun was just doing spectacular things, bouncing off the clouds. And I posted this on Instagram, and a friend asked me about the photo. And what came out of my unedited thought was that really sometimes, what's this photo about? Sometimes a photo is just a prayer that my friends can see those things that take my breath away. And I went, oh my God, that's what my voice is about. It's really about seeing things and trying to make it so that my friends who can't be here, maybe some of them can't cover the terrain I do, or maybe they're on the other side of the country or in a different country. I want them to be able to see the things that make me say, oh my God, that's beautiful. And then this morning, as we had the poet laureate giving her lovely talk, she said one thing that just, really, really caught me. One of the lines in her poem was, "For there is always light if we are brave enough to see it." And I think for photographers that I know, that seeing that light and then sharing it is a lot of what that creative voice is about. It's what that creative voice is for. And so for me, it's not so much about the picture as what do I want someone else to see and fall in love with the way I fell in love with it. With that, let me stop and turn things over to Teju, who's got a lovely and very different voice.
Thanks, Bruce. Really an honor to speak to all of you. Good afternoon. What I'm trying to show here is taking what Bruce is teaching here, some of those pointers, and showing you how I learned to do photography, as well as trying to find my voice. So a little bit quick introduction here. My name is Eiju Kapchindani. I have a Chinese name because I'm half Chinese and half Indian. I'm an engineer in the daytime. That's how I make my paycheck and support my family. But in my heart, I really wanted to be a good photographer. And I bought my first DSLR camera by telling my wife that I need to take good pictures of the kids. So that's how I got the camera. And since then, I just couldn't let go of it. What I started doing when I first got the camera is just like what Bruce was saying, one of his slides, it's one of the pointers, is to imitate. And so obviously I just went to all these tourist spots. There's, if you go look on Google Map, there's an icon to tell you stand right here and you will get good shots, right? So that's what I did. I just went to where the Google Map is telling me, go over there, take a picture of this. And if you know how to use your camera, you should be able to get a good picture, right? In the right condition. The one thing that I want to definitely mention here, and I mentioned to Bruce a few times, is I think nowadays when you buy a camera, it could get intimidating. Like even the cell phone camera app itself has so many modes, so many options. Sometimes I take pictures of the kids, of people, and I forgot to use the portrait mode, right? Simple as that. And so don't let the technology intimidate you. And you have to get over that hump of using your camera and get to the point where you're just taking pictures that you enjoy, like Bruce is saying, and get over all those technologies and focus on getting the picture. Now, so here is I'm just doing these postcard, standing location, getting these shots, learning, taking lots of it, and then here's how I failed. Right now, I'm imitating some other shots that I've seen a lot, where especially with this lady here, she was trying to get a donation, but people were just walking by and not giving her the time of the day. So I really like that. I really want to sort of use her as a subject and feel like people are just not giving her the time of the day, and I feel bad for her, right? So I try to take that shot of her standing, getting the donation, holding out the box, people moving by, and with the motions of all these people walking by. So I had to use a slow shutter speed, but I went too slow, and then even this nice lady is now all blurred out. So it's not good enough as a photo that I wanted to get, and I couldn't go back. Right, she was gone already the next day if I go back. So these are the lessons that I have to learn and make tons of mistakes again and again. And that's part of the journey of finding the voice, right? Then I go back and do some more, this is a very famous spot in Yosemite Valley. If you ever go to Yosemite, I think everybody stop at that same spot. It's right outside the tunnel. But what I saw that day when I had the camera in my hand was I felt like I was stuck in the seasons, because if you look to the left of the picture, it feels like it's the fall, but to the right is the winter. And I felt like, wait, I'm stuck here. I'm stuck in the middle. Am I going to, do I like fall? Do I like winter? Which one is better? It's hard to tell. And it was a lovely shot in the sense that my friends love it. I like it, and it's and I try to title my slides too, because that gives me even myself, when I title the pictures that I have, it gives me sort of what I want to show, right? And then a little bit more of exploring. I call this shot the drive-in theater, right? Because when I was taking this shot, the Milky Way, the galaxy you see at night, it's a movie. It's actually a moving object. It's not still, right? Even though it looks like it's still, but it's very much alive. It's moving. It's changing so fast, right? And I told my wife, I say, hey, look, this is a drive-in theater. This projector, which the lighthouse just happens to shine a light that looks like it's projecting the movie, and the galaxy is the movie. And so I started doing more creative processing when I started learning more and more about what I want to convey on the picture. And I wrote this on my blog as well, in terms of what I think photography is similar to. It's very similar to fishing, right? It pays to wait. Sometimes you want a particular shot and you start having those crayons in your hand, like Bruce is saying, and what do I want to create? I have a blank piece of paper. What do I want to create? And walk around. One day I was walking around in London and I saw these big neon signs that says love, hope, dream. And it was very cool. I could just take a picture of those neon signs and I'll be done with it. But then I had a picture that popped in my head where I wanted to see somebody either walking away, standing underneath the love sign, or walking away from it, to convey the sort of the feelings that I have. Is a lot of times we are looking for love, we don't know where to look, and we might be even walking away from love that we don't know of, right? And so I wanted to create that shot. I really want to convey that feeling that I have, and then I ended up with this picture. And I waited for a good 45 minutes to an hour. I had to wait. There were a lot of foot traffic, so I had to wait for people to all go by. I have to wait for somebody to be around the sign, looking away from the sign, doing something else. And guess what? He's looking down on the phone, and he's not even, he can't see the sign, love, obviously, where he's sitting at. And not only that, he's looking at his phone. I'm an engineer. I worked on the phones. I helped build the phone. And I always wonder to myself, are we really connecting to society with phones? Are we actually pulling people apart with the phones. I really have a struggle, even just myself as an engineer, right? Because I feel like giving everybody a phone now, oh yeah, I can easily call somebody, or I can text somebody, I can look at the pictures, I can see on Instagram what my sister is doing, half the planet away. But are we really more connected? Somehow I don't feel like we are. So the title of this is Looking for Love, right? This gentleman might be looking on your website, hoping somebody would praise his work, or looking for a girlfriend, who knows? But then also the part that I want to share is, how many times have we looked for love in the wrong direction, which is where he's looking at, and when it's just actually around the corner. Right? So this is how I become even more creative, and it's how I'm trying to find my voice. I'm starting to create shots in my head rather than just taking up the camera and taking the shots. I am creating what I want to take first, and then I take the picture. Here's the latest one, and this is actually in Costco in Mountain View, just on a day where I'm waiting for my car to be done, and I took my camera out, and this gentleman who has such confidence in his walk, and he dressed really well, and his sunglasses, everything, and he's walking down the path with nice shadow and with the big arrow pointing to where he's walking to, and so I really like this. I created a shot thinking that, hey, here's a person who knows where he's going, right? But kind of like what Bruce was saying, creating the shot. What did I actually see when I picked up my camera? I didn't see him in color. Now I'll show you the original picture I took, which is the color version. Now, if you see the color version, you would know that it's a lot more busy. It takes your attention away. You don't see the confidence in him. At least I did not see it, right? So it's a very selfish process when you become creative. And here I'm just a little bit creative here. Going back to the black and white, the black and white shot is really where I wanted to convey, right? And I feel like I can see his confidence in it. Whereas in the color shot, I did not see that even just myself. So here's a shot at trying out what the techniques Bruce is teaching us. The equipment I have, like I said, the DSLR I bought as an excuse to take pictures for my kids, so my wife can approve. Recently I bought a Fujifilm X100V, which is the camera on the lower left here. That's an easier to handle camera, easy to walk around with, and I use that for street photography. I use some filters for landscape shots, a tripod, and for long exposure. Now, one thing I definitely use is music. My creativity in my head helps me with music. Helps me with that. Without music, I tend to take less picture that I like. But with the music, with the songs that's going on, I actually start creating what I want to see, and that's really kick off the creativity juice there in my head. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for having an opportunity to speak to you. And yeah, I really enjoy doing this as just, like Bruce is saying, creative process that's very different from engineering. And so it keeps me alive. Thanks.
Hey, Teju, this is great. If people in the class want to find your pictures, do you have a website they can go to?
Yeah, I can send you. It's actually just if you search for my name, it should come up.
Or you can put it on chat. They can, if they're interested, they can look more of your pictures.
Sure. I'll put it on the chat. Yeah, I didn't want to go through all the slides with too many of the pictures here because it's more important to go through the concept. As you can see, right, even here on the top, it's just another one where you just stand at this location, take a picture, and it's a very straightforward postcard type of shots. So, but I'll share the link. Thanks,
the one on the right, Teju, where's that at?
The one with the stars, the galaxy?
Yeah, the galaxy with the house.
That's actually near Grand Teton Park in Wyoming.
Wyoming. Okay, wow.
Yeah, it's late at night. You have to actually shine a light on that barn to get the light to get the house, the barn to lit up. But then you have to make sure that it's not you're not blocking the lights from the galaxy. But it was just lucky, right? I was just happened to be a clear night. A very beautiful view of the galaxy. I love looking at the galaxy, by the way, if you haven't noticed. Thanks.
Well, we managed to save a chunk of time for questions, so we'd love to hear what kind of thoughts you've got. I didn't mean to put anybody on the spot, but I'm just sort of, what kinds of photographs or what kinds of avenues are those of you in the class, where are you looking for your voice? Is it with photography? Is it in your flower garden? Is it in drawing? I want to hear a little bit about that. Who's willing to share?
Well, I have a question for both of you, either one.
Okay.
What do you think the hardest thing is to film? Is it people or children playing, or is it like, I know you shoot a lot of the outer space in the galaxy, or is it, what's the hardest? And then kind of, is there something that's really easy? Anybody can get a picture of that, you know, still food or something like that.
Teju,
Bruce, you go ahead first.
Oh, okay.
You go ahead first.
Well, I'll tell you about some things that are hard for me. I am trying to learn to take good photos of birds taking off or landing. And you need a lot more time and a lot more patience than I've managed so far. And you've got to be willing to make a lot of mistakes. So far I've got several hundred failed attempts. So that's one thing. I find people photography, I love doing it, but I have to take 10 shots or more for every one that I'm going to keep, because I like to catch people doing things or saying or having expressions that they or their friends would recognize. And catching people being natural is a very difficult and unnatural process.
Right.
I can't stand posed, okay, everybody line up and I'll snap your picture. I hate those. I call them taxidermy shots. But I love the shots where I catch you talking with your hands, or somebody with that quizzical look on their face. I love doing that, but I find it hard.
Yeah, I have to agree with, sorry, I would have to agree with Bruce. I think taking shots of people, especially people you don't know, that you want to, and you find this, let's say you go out and you see this gentleman or this lady with a really good expression, or I really like the photo I was showing you about that gentleman walking down the street at Costco. There's probably no way for me to get that shot again ever, right? The way he was walking, where he was standing with the lights, I think it's the hardest one. It's even harder than taking pictures of not to say that taking pictures of birds is easy. That's extremely hard. Bruce is really brave. I have so many bird shots that I have to throw away. It's extremely hard. But birds at least won't give you a different expression, right? When you point a camera at them. But whereas people, when they see your camera, they change their expression completely. By the time you only have maybe 1/10 of a second to get the shot, and then they see your camera and they completely change their facial expression, right? So now the shot is gone. Sorry, I think I interrupted somebody here.
No, Yolanda, you look like you had a question.
Yeah, what is a good first camera to purchase?
Oh, there's, I don't think there's one generic answer. One good place to start is with whatever camera is on your cell phone, because those are amazing cameras right now. I've had some good luck with little pocket cameras. They refer to them as point and shoot cameras. I bought a little Sony pocket camera, and you know, the what's available changes all the time, but I think, you know, a little pocket camera that you can just have with you all the time is probably a good place to start. I don't know, Teju, what would you say?
I think I read somewhere where you know, the first camera you should get is something that doesn't intimidate you and it's
Yeah.
easier to use, so you can just get a lot of practice. I think the suggestions for the cell phone it's great, right? Because especially nowadays with the cell phone, the cameras are so amazing. You can take a lot of good pictures. However, I actually it's funny enough, even though I take a lot of pictures, I find myself not taking pictures with my cell phone. Don't tell my boss, but I find myself not taking pictures with my cell phone because ergonomically, I don't like it. I don't like the ergonomics of using the cell phone to take pictures, right? Finding the buttons on the touch screen, wait, which buttons, and I can't change, there's no dial. It doesn't work for me. And then if I take a DSLR, it's huge, it's too big, right? I use that for landscapes, which is why I purchased the other camera that I was showing, which is a smaller camera, but has still all the functions and dials that I needed. I can take, you know, I can easily take hundreds and hundreds of pictures in a day with that. Whereas on my cell phone, there might be only 2 pictures on it in a daily basis, right? So I think find the first camera where you're gonna use this a lot. That I think is the first key point, is find the one that you say, okay, I'm just going to shoot with this. I don't care if it's going to come out okay or not. Let me just take this shot, take this shot, take this shot, see how it comes out, and then improve on that. That would be my recommendation.
I would have 2 additions to that. One is I have to tell you a story that I'm only mildly annoyed by. I bought myself a fancy macro lens, and we were playing around. Our son came down to visit, and I was showing off a new tripod that I had and a fancy light that I'd got. And we just went outside, and there was 2 fascinating looking grasshoppers on one of the rose bushes. And they were very patient. So I very carefully set up the light on one tripod and my camera on the other. And of course, I don't know anything about how to use this fancy lens. But I tried a whole bunch of things and finally got a couple of shots that I really like. And my son brought out his one of the Google phones, and Pixel phone, I think it's called. And he took a couple of close-up shots that were very close to the angle I had. And I think a fair-minded independent party would look at the 2 shots and say, his picture's better. So that's one thought. If the form factor works for you with a cell phone, do that. The other thing that might be really easy, Sony has got several good little mirrorless cameras that, you know, camera and 1 or 2 lenses you can get for several $100s. And learning to use one of those or the entry-level digital SLR, digital single lens reflex cameras, can be inexpensive and really pretty straightforward to learn. You know, there is a learning curve, obviously, but I would get, you know, other things being equal, if there's a few $100s around, I would get something where I could have a camera and 2 different lenses of different lengths. And I happen to be a Canon guy. I know Teju is too, but I happen to like those. There are some great places to buy good quality used cameras. KEH and MPB are both really good places. And the reason I mention those is they will evaluate what kind of shape the equipment is in. So if you go buy something from them, you can trust that it's going to be as good as they say it is. And almost all of the equipment that I use is secondhand, just because I don't have buckets of money to throw at my hobby. What other questions have folks got?
I have one. So
Okay.
both of your photographies are very, very different. My question to you guys are, which photographers or artists influenced your work?
Teju, let me let you go first this time.
Sure, sure. I think the landscape shots are mostly affected by looking at like Ansel Adams,
Mhm.
even though mines are not black and white, because I think he was trying to relay a different mood. Whereas for me, when I started doing a lot of landscapes, my main focus was to share the marvelous view that I was looking at, right? And it's like sometimes you hike up to a mountain and you see a view and you just say you want to scream to the world and say, here, this is what I saw. I hope you can see the same thing. And so Ansel Adams was a very influencing sort of how I do landscapes. And then I changed over the year to do that. And then the other one is there's a Japanese artist, Yoshisawa, I think. I have to go look up his name, but he really does a really amazing. He was in the 60s and 50s doing really amazing street photography. And he influenced my sort of passion on sort of relaying the mood in the streets and what the feelings behind his pictures are. I mean, if you go look at his pictures, there's you can see a lot of expression in them. So those are the two.
Thank you.
Definitely Ansel Adams. I mean, I set out to do black and white photography. I've been seduced by the lovely color, and so I'm finding that I do some of what I do is still black and white, but a lot of it is I just fall in love with the colors of a particular era. So a particular time of day. Um, but again, the black and white themes. I couldn't think of the name before. Imogene Cunningham was amazing. She was 30s and 40s, and Edward Weston. They just did these stunningly beautiful, detailed, kind of very still life kind of things. I love those. And I guess the other one that jumps to the front of the list for me is Gordon Parks. And so he was probably the first really well-known African-American photographer, but he did more to capture people and their stories. And what's noticeable in Teju's photos is he really has vivid story in what he's doing. Mine tend to be less story. I mean, sometimes if I'm shooting photos in the classroom, it's very much about story. But a lot of the stuff that I do in my after hours work is no. I like the scene, but I love photographers who capture a story in a vivid way. And he's one, and I'm freezing on another name. There were some of the earliest photographers who would do, early street photographers would just bring out these gorgeous stories. You catch somebody in a very human moment.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks. What other questions have you got? You got time for about one more. Yeah, Bruce.
When you took that picture of the guy walking out of Costco, did you let him know that you took that picture of him?
No. Actually, the one thing about street photography that you find out is that there's a lot of discussion online and forum as well, right? Just the privacy. In fact, there's one and another Japanese photographer that again his name escapes me. He actually brings the camera all the way up to your face and then he takes a picture. And I don't like doing that. I think that's very offending, right? But that's his style, and he's very famous, and lots of people preface his work, and that's how he does it. This gentleman did not know that I was taking a picture, but I think he figured it out. One of the things about the smaller camera that I like as street photography is, I actually hold it up here. The screen actually flips up, so I'm not holding the camera like this. I'm holding a camera like this. And so he might be thinking I'm fumbling with the camera, but in fact, I'm taking pictures of whatever I can see. So, you know, there's no law against taking pictures in public of people that are walking by. The law states very clearly that you can take those pictures, but I actually like to be friendly, right? If he notices it and he comes to me and say, I don't want you to take my picture, then I'll say, oh, sorry, I'm going to delete it right now. You know, I'll show them that I delete it. But that's how I approach it, right? If they don't like it, I'll quickly move away and quickly respect their space.
One caution I would throw in is if you're taking photographs of kids,
Yes,
then
you have to get their permission, parents' permission.
And I do a lot of events for my wife's organization. One of them is a Rides for Toys event in Sunnyvale where you donate a toy and you get a ride in a fire engine. And I have to work really hard. It's perfectly fine to capture the firefighters in their photos. And there's some very sort of rugged, very photogenic individuals, but I've got to get the kids, you know, the back of kids' heads or something. I'm trying hard not to get their faces, but with adults, yeah, it's a different story.
Yeah, that follow up on that is because I was going to ask, did you ever like miss a picture and you could have got it perfect, but just because you didn't think it would be, I don't want to say appropriate, or inappropriate, but meaning I was in France and I was in Omaha Beach at Normandy, and there were people, and I felt very uncomfortable and very disrespectful taking pictures. So I just kind of want to, have you ever been in that where you're like, I better not do it?
Yes.
Plenty of times,
Okay.
plenty of times, because I think you know, if the picture comes out, I think when people see it, they might actually say, well, how did you get the picture, right? And they can might figure out that, hey, you took this picture, not a really appropriate situation, right? So
Yeah.
I think respecting your environment, respecting the people around you, and so what Bruce is saying, taking pictures of the kids. What I did was I actually was invited to take a lot of pictures for my kids' events, like a dance and, you know, Girl Scout, and I actually created a form. And what I do is I just let all the parents sign the form and say, hey, if you're okay with me taking pictures of your kids in a, you know, Girl Scout event or, you know, dancing event, whatever, then, you know, let just sign here so that it's okay, right? That's easy to do.
Great advice. Thank you.
I would say, you know, a common theme in the photography for both of us is the reverence for what it is we're looking at. And so, you know, I just asked myself, okay, if I take a photograph here, is that a respectful thing? If I went to a funeral, I wouldn't take anybody's photograph, you know.
Exactly.
You know, if I'm at a concert, am I ruining somebody else's experience with it? You know, that kind of thing. But you know, can I create if I'm taking an image of a person in particular, can I do it in a way that shows the beauty inside them? And that to me is the most important part.
So Bruce, a funny thing about what I would have done is in that situation where you mentioned about Normandy, I might actually take a picture of the photographers disrespecting the scene, right? And that would be a picture to say, hey, look here, right? This is not really nice, right? And you know, I'm sharing my thoughts on this is not a nice thing to do, and that could be a picture too.
I got the one where the crosses were lined up perfectly and you could see the arch over there. So
oh, nice.
that's what I did.
Yes.
Focus on those.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, thank you all.
I have a question.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Sure.
I took a picture of a hummingbird with my cell phone.
Wow.
And when I zoomed it to enlarge it, because I needed to have it printed, the print came out too grainy.
Yes.
Was there something I could have done so that it wouldn't look grainy?
Yeah.
So funny.
Yes. I showed you one of my wrong shots. You know, one of my shots that didn't work, and it was a graininess kind of problem. A lot depends on how big you're going to get this blown up. If you're you know, phone cameras can do very well up to, I don't know, about 8x10 or something like that.
I enlarged it to an 8x10.
Okay. Often, so the mistake that I made with the one that I showed you, that looked like I shot it through a screen door, was
Right.
I didn't have it properly exposed so that I was having to lighten the shadows, and that really, I didn't capture the light right in the first place. And so in general, what people do is have you, if anything, if you're going to be doing any processing on a computer later on, you slightly overexpose it so that you've got more detail, and then somebody, somebody can help you darken it a little bit, and then you won't get as much graininess. So that's a short answer to a long and a very good question. Also, congratulations for you to getting a picture at all of a hummingbird. That's hard work.
It was a great picture, but I had to enlarge it so that you could see it very well.
Oh, look at that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. In an ideal, wow. In an ideal world, all of our pictures are so good that we get to blow them up to, as big as we want. One of the reasons for considering doing something other than the cell phone is if you think you want to be printing a bunch of things, then some of the more expensive options give you more degrees of freedom in that. By the way, one thing that we've talked about is the possibility that maybe through Travando or something, we might do a longer class at some point. And there we could walk through some more of the mechanics of how to make sure you get the light that you need and stuff like that. So that's a possible future project for sometime soon.
Yes.
It would be a good class.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you for the feedback on that.
Yeah, thank you, Yolanda. We'll let you know. We're actually forming the class soon. Bruce and I are working on that, and we'll talk about schedule. But we're out of time. Thank you so much, Bruce, Teju, for contributing your time in this community Zoom day. We appreciate so much.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.